Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing a really high stakes deep dive, I think, into the world of securing grant funding. And we're looking specifically at the organizations that, need it most, the small and startup nonprofits that are facing some enormous headwinds.
Oh, this is such a vital area. I mean, if you're a small organization, you're so often up against these established entities that have, well, entire departments dedicated to chasing grants. The deck can feel very, very heavily stacked against you.
Exactly. So our mission today, which we've pulled from this really fascinating stack of source material, is pretty simple. How can emerging organizations not just survive, but actually secure the grant funding they need when they don't have the big name or, that decades-long operational history? We're hunting for that competitive advantage.
And I think we should set the context right away. Because while the challenges are absolutely real, the research confirms that grant funding is available. It's there, even for startups. The crucial difference between success and failure. It isn't about the size of your endowment. It's about understanding precisely how to package your unique case, show your capability, and tell your story.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's unpack the immediate hurdles. Our sources identify some pretty significant logistical and systemic challenges that create these headwinds. What are the big three obstacles that small teams really struggle with?
They're centered on capacity, history, and trust. So first we have the logistics. And this is really the capacity crunch. I mean, running programs and serving clients is a full-time job. Often it's several full-time jobs rolled into one person.
Right.
So who, on that small team, has the dedicated time for the deep research to find the right funders, and then the relationship building, the proposal writing, and then all the crucial follow-up?
It's the classic trap, isn't it? You need funding to hire staff, but you need
staff to write the proposals that secure the funding.
It's a paralyzing time sink.
Precisely. The second headwind is the track record. If you're a small or new organization, you likely lack prior experience executing the exact project you're proposing. Funders need assurance. They're investing risk capital at the end of the day. So you have to demonstrate expertise, even if the organization itself is young. You have to prove that the people leading the project, your staff, your board, are seasoned veterans, capable of handling that complexity and delivering results.
So the focus shifts from look at our history to look at the expertise we've assembled. That's a really critical pivot for a startup.
Yeah.
And the third major challenge.
The finances.
Yeah.
Even if you are currently financially stable, funders will question if you have experience managing the specific amount of money you're asking for. It's a fundamental leap of faith for them. And this leads to the most crucial warning we saw in the sources. Grants are for growth and specific projects, not for operational debt recovery. If you're struggling to keep the lights on, just don't even think about asking for a grant to bail you out. Funders will see that as a huge failure risk, not an investment opportunity.
That distinction, grants for growth versus grants for survival, that is a sharp, essential reality check. But here's where the sources kind of flip the script and where it gets really interesting. Despite all these obstacles, many funders, they actually suggest they actively seek out emerging nonprofits. Why would they take on that risk?
Well, you can think of it as the nonprofit equivalent of shopping local or maybe making a high-impact venture investment. Large, established nonprofit, the behemoth, they often have massive operational costs, lots of bureaucracy.
Sure.
Small organizations, just by their nature, they're typically closer to the actual problem in the community they serve. They're agile. They have what we call a laser focus.
So a funder who's looking to solve a very specific problem in let's say, a niche community knows that a brand new mission-driven startup might actually deliver a better, more measurable return on that investment.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Better than a large national organization where the money might just get diluted across all their overhead.
Yeah.
Their success starts not by trying to replicate what some huge organization is doing, but by finding a funder who genuinely shares that specific niche vision and those values.
Mission alignment first.
That's it. You have to identify the funders who want that agility.
Okay, so that alignment sets the stage. But before you submit a single page, the small nonprofit needs a really sharp internal strategy. How do they define themselves in a way that's, irresistible to a potential funder?
This is where foundational strategy comes into play.
Yeah.
And it's divided into two critical self-assessment steps. First, know your case.
Know your case.
This is your unique selling proposition. You have to be able to articulate precisely why your organization offers the best solution for the people you serve. Differentiation is everything.
Can you give us an example of what that differentiation looks like in practice?
Sure. It's not enough to just say, we help underserved children. You have to articulate the specific gap you fill. Maybe your methodology is unique. You combine arts education with STEM in a way no one else does.
Hmm.
Maybe your location is crucial. You serve the only overlooked urban pocket in an otherwise wealthy county.
Got it.
Or maybe you have access to a very specific, hard-to-reach population, say immigrant families who speak a language no other local service provides resources in. You have to rigorously define the service gap you close.
So this rigorous self-assessment is essential because it's going to inform every single word of the proposal later on.
Exactly. And the second part is just as vital for being memorable. Know your story. Every organization needs what you might call a heroic origin story. Funders are people. They get tired of dry statistics. They respond to narrative.
Okay.
Your story has to detail who saw the problem, what specific frustrating challenge did they face at first, and what immediate, decisive action was taken to solve it.
It provides the emotional hook. So instead of "we were founded in 2022," it's Maria saw 5 kids go hungry in her neighborhood and decided that night to build a community kitchen. That's sicky.
It is. Storytelling is a survival tool. Now, once you have that internal strategy locked down, the small group has to solve the external credibility problem.
Right. How do they build that track record and that capacity externally if they're new? That hurdle seems almost insurmountable for a startup. How do they get over it?
This takes serious, dedicated legwork and networking. First, you have to get out there. Small nonprofits must catalyze their efforts by getting known, and not just in the community they serve, but among other organizations with similar missions. Be visible at local community groups like chambers of commerce or service clubs, and critically, join your local chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the AFP.
But you're not suggesting that the funders themselves are necessarily sitting at the monthly Rotary meeting, are you?
Not always, no. But the people who know the funders are. You need to expand your circle of influence. You have to tell that compelling, heroic story to anyone who is connected to the funding pipeline.
So advisors, board members of other nonprofits.
Business leaders, yes.
Yep.
They can vouch for your organizational leadership. That is immense credibility.
So you're expanding the network to leverage warm introductions. What about tangible partnerships that directly show your capability?
That's the second strategy. Collaborate.
Yeah.
Find a partner nonprofit, either one offering the same service in a different area, or even better, one offering supplemental services that complement what you do.
Oh, interesting.
So, for example, if you offer job training, you could partner with a nonprofit that offers childcare.
And why does that matter so much to a funder?
Funders love collaboration. It demonstrates operational maturity, efficiency, and it proves that you can play well with others.
Right.
It signals you're not just operating in a silo. Plus, if you partner with an older, more established organization, you temporarily inherit some of their credibility and their track record for that joint project. It mitigates the funder's risk.
That's a genius move.
Yeah.
Temporary reputation borrowing through a partnership.
And third, partner with a business. Look for businesses that share interests in your same donors or clients. Businesses can contribute expertise like accounting or marketing know-how, person power through volunteers, and sometimes direct funds. This relationship instantly bolsters the small nonprofit's perceived capacity and professionalism. And finally, this all requires persistence. Grant prospecting is competitive. The sources really emphasize that not every application will succeed, but every rejection should be viewed as data. Seek feedback from funders, refine your story, and then apply again.
That commitment to persistence brings us to the final and I think crucial takeaway from our sources. The research reveals that grant success isn't just about the narrative or the networking, it's about the entire organization's ability to execute and communicate. Our material pointed to a surprisingly huge list of related skills that small nonprofits have to master.
Yes, this is where we connect all the dots. It shows that grant success really relies on holistic organizational health. The ability to manage logistics and demonstrate capability, which funders demand, is directly linked to mastering these diverse skills that might seem totally separate from writing a proposal.
I have to admit, I found this section of the material the most challenging because the technical jargon was pretty intense. I mean, why should a funder care if my small local nonprofit knows about data experimentation or landing page optimization?
Because operational maturity is financial maturity. When a funder gives you a large sum of money, they're assessing two things: your vision and your competence. Mastering these digital and data skills is really the modern way to prove competence.
Okay, let's try to define some of these complex skills simply and link them back to the proposal. What about foundational skills like digital presence and data?
A nonprofit needs to show It understands digital foundations, how to clearly communicate who they are through a professional, easy-to-use website.
Hmm.
But more importantly, they have to demonstrate data literacy.
Okay.
So if you can show a funder that you track key metrics like measuring the conversion rate of donors on your online donation form or systematically optimizing your landing pages, you're proving that you are sophisticated enough to track and manage their grant money effectively. You're proving financial literacy through data literacy.
So understanding how something like Google Analytics works to track visitor behavior is just as important as knowing how to write a zero-based budget. It proves you can measure impact.
Precisely. Now look at marketing and social media. Small teams need to show they're current. Funders need assurance you can communicate effectively to your stakeholders. This means posting consistently on professional platforms like LinkedIn to demonstrate your expertise, and understanding how things like major operating system updates, like the impact of the iOS 14 update, changes the metrics you use. It shows you're adaptable.
And then there were even more specialized storytelling techniques mentioned in our sources, techniques that sound like they belong in a film studio, not a local community center.
Absolutely. We saw references to advanced storytelling methods, like transmedia storytelling. Put simply, this is using a narrative that spans different media. So maybe a compelling video on YouTube, followed by a personalized email campaign, followed by an interactive data visualization on your website.
And why is that important for a grant?
It demonstrates a sophisticated communication strategy, resourcefulness. It shows you know how to build a lasting, engaging relationship with your community, which is crucial for long-term sustainability. It also proves you're equipped to use storytelling to, say, combat misinformation about your cause, proving you can manage your reputation effectively.
It's clear this is a marathon of continuous education. The grant proposal itself is just the final package, but the operational maturity it proves is built on all these different skills.
That's the synthesis.
Oh.
The ability to manage data experimentation, maintain a professional digital presence, and execute consistent outreach is what demonstrates that comprehensive capability that funders demand. You're proving you're ready to be a good steward of their investment.
That is a powerful and, I think, necessary synthesis for our listener.
Hmm.
So wrapping up this deep dive, the path forward for small nonprofits seeking grants is paved with persistent effort. That effort has to be combined with a clear, heroic story, that rigorous self-assessment and strategic collaboration that, mitigates the funder's risk. You have to be excellent at the work and equally excellent at proving you can manage the future work.
And that leads to a final provocative thought for you to consider. Given this necessity of continuous learning in areas like data experimentation, digital marketing, and advanced communication, what single new organizational skill will you commit to mastering this week to strengthen your position and prove competence for the next grant opportunity?
That commitment to continuous learning is just non-negotiable. If you want to dive deeper into the tactics and skills we discussed today, especially the strategies for building that organizational capacity and refining your grant proposals, we do have a resource for you. For educational videos and more on grant proposal writing, you can go to grants.courses. We will catch you on the next deep dive.